Hey, what's going on, guys? Room Gaming here, back to the video. Today's episode, we're taking a look at Quinn in the top lane. Starting out some of Quinn's abilities, first we're going to have her passive Harrier. You're going to passively mark enemies as vulnerable, and your first basic attack against these vulnerable targets will deal bonus physical damage. Up next, we have her Q, Blinding Assault. You are going to call your Valor to mark an enemy and hinder their vision before damaging all enemies in the immediate area in a circle. Next, we have her W, Heightened Senses. This is passively going to grant you attack speed and movement speed after you attack a vulnerable target from your passive. You can also activate it to have your Valor reveal a large area nearby. Up next, we have our Vault, our E ability. You're going to dash to an enemy and you're going to deal physical damage and slow the target's move speed. Upon reaching the target, you're going to leap off of them and briefly interrupt them, and you're going to land near them. Finally, we have her Bread and Butter, her ultimate, behind enemy lines. You and your Valor are going to team up and you're going to fly around the map at high speeds. Ending the ability is going to cast something called a Sky Strike. This will deal damage to nearby enemies and marks enemy champions as vulnerable. Her levels 1 through 3 will be E, W, Q, then she'll be maxing at W, Q, and E, taking ultimate, of course, whenever it's available. Her summoners are going to be Flash and Ignite. Our runes are going to be Electrocute, with the following options in the Domination tree and the following options in the Sorcery tree. Your items are going to be a Doran's Blade into Health Pot, and your core items will be a Static Shiv, Symbiotic Souls, and an Edge of Night. Then you're going to finish off with a Collector, Lord's Dominic Regards, and Infinity Edge. In terms of who she's strongest, she's pretty strong against any sort of bruiser early game. Typically targets that have one singular engage that she can then E off of, basically fully countering whatever engage that they do have on her. And she's going to be very weak against anything that has a very high sustained damage profile and a way to kind of lock her down. So both Rumble and Trundle can, of course, slow her, and then Mordekaiser can ultimate her, and she has nowhere to run. So she's pretty good at countering a singular hard engage like a Poppy, Pantheon, or Renekton. Okay, going into the early game as Quinn. So the art of playing Quinn early lane is going to lie in understanding who has agency and when. So if you're up against melee champions like a Darius or an Aatrox, your auto Q auto trades can chunk them to 40% HP very quickly and basically snowballing the lane for you. So wave control is actually going to be where Quinn is very strong in the early game. So you always want to be thinking a couple waves ahead of your opponent. And this is going to be where you want to really take advantage of your range top lane. And typically you either want to hard crash it into their turret or you want to freeze it in front of your turret. Now, if you have shoved into the enemy's tower, for your first ward, you want to try to ward a little bit deeper, specifically on one of the enemy's jungle camps, maybe something like their main red or blue buff, because a deeper ward is going to give you more time to react to any sort of gank. Now, if you are running Ignite, you do want to play a little bit more aggressively, especially once you hit level 3 and get all of your abilities. But if you cannot sneak in an early kill, then you want to play for your mid game. So getting into the mid game here. So the second that you unlock your ultimate, your job kind of shifts from a bully top lane to pressure everywhere. And this is where a lot of Quinn players get stuck. They try to keep landing, but you're not a traditional top laner. You're more of a skirmish enabler and a roaming annoyance pretty much everywhere on the map. So you're kind of thinking actually a little bit more like a jungler rather than a top laner. So if you do have priority in your lane, you want to continue to shove it and kind of hover your jungler. And you can actually get some free picks in the top side jungle if your jungler is kind of on board with playing a sort of aggressive style with you. Now, if your jungler is not, if you're just playing like with a Shyvana that's a power farmer, then this is where you're going to want to at least try to run mid if you can. And then if not, then of course just, continue to try to push deep into your enemy's jungle and set up vision top side. Now, as you are in the mid game, obviously you do want to shove, but your strength really as Quinn is to show top or show in a specific lane and then show up mid lane, 5 to 10 seconds later. This is going to kind of give the deception that you're in a specific lane when really you're just kind of roaming all over the map. Is going to kind of bait the enemy team into taking specific fights that they think they have a numbers advantage on, when in reality, you're just a couple seconds away. The threat of mobility, the threat of fog of war when playing Quinn is something that can be very overestimated. So your job is not to just deal a whole bunch of damage It's also to make the enemy feel like they can't catch you and to create pressure. Now going into Quinn's late game, so you do not necessarily have a weak late game. It's just conditional. So you're not necessarily this team fighter DPS that would play like a traditional ADC. You're kind of more of a flanker and an assassin, and you're trying to control the map. So don't just walk into a 5v5 and expect to carry the whole fight. That's not necessarily your role. Instead, you're kind of hovering around vision pockets and you're waiting for the ADC to walk up or inch up too far, or any squishy champion for that matter, and try to get a pick. Again, in the late game, your best value is going to come from fog of war and any sort of flanks, making picks around objectives. So champions like Quinn are going to thrive in a vision dominant sort of play style. So sweepers are going to be strong on Quinn, control wards. This is going to be the point in the game where you need to literally type to your teammates and try to get them to buy and place as many control wards as possible, because you're playing as an assassin. Now in the late game, again, you are not a sustained DPS. You're a one-shot sort of reset machine. You're going to try to vault a squishy. You're going to try to queue for a blind and try to take somebody out before that blind wears off, or at least massively chunk them. Overall, final thoughts on Quinn. Everything is about control. You control the wave from the early game, you control the map, and you control the tempo of the game. She's an information-based champion disguised as a duelist, and the best Quinn players don't necessarily just win their lane, they win the game everywhere. They make the enemy feel like they are constantly out of position while also picking them off. All right, guys, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next one.